Hello my friends and welcome back to the next Battlefield Remake update video. In my last video I teased you guys with some storage containers I was working on, and I said that when I finished modeling them that I would do an update video, and that's what this video is all about. Purely my workflow on how I've got modeled my storage containers for the game, made them really low poly so they're very optimized for the game, and retextured a couple of versions of them. And I briefly mentioned at the end of my last video what I was doing. So I was taking this high poly storage container, and then I was going to sort of map the high poly onto some of these low poly models. And yeah, so I'll just jump right in. I think let's see. Let me open up a different one. Okay. So this is roughly where I was originally. Like, this is, if you've downloaded and played the build that we currently have at the minute, this is what you'll see in game. Actually this brown colored one, I then moved on from it and started trying to make this silver one. And basically how I created this texture was in Adobe Illustrator. So this is like a vector line drawing graphic software. For graphic designers would use this, and you know, I thought that what I could do was I could just draw my storage container completely from scratch as a texture and then just map that onto some geometry. And I mean, that workflow, I mean, it works, but the problem with it is I don't think you get a very realistic looking, like I had to kind of manually draw in all the shadow and stuff like that, and I don't know, I'm not a brilliant artist, and some things can just look a little bit fake, I guess. I think this technique would work quite well if you were doing some sort of stylized first-person shooter. Like, there's an upcoming remaster for a game called 13, which was a shell-shaded first-person shooter, kind of comic book style, and really graphic. And I think something like that, using the Illustrator to just sketch something up, would work quite well. But that's just, I got kind of halfway into this and just realized that this just wasn't the technique I wanted to use, and I wanted something a bit more realistic. And I suppose I could just show you what my end result is before I get too much further. Let's see. Oh, my Blender has froze. So yeah, I wanted something much more realistic, much more closer to what was in the original Battlefield. And I guess now is a good time to show you my end result. Okay, so this is my end result. Let me see if I go to a left view. There we go. So this is my end result, side by side in comparison with a high poly. So what I thought would be fun to do is let you guys guess which one's the high poly version and which one's the low poly, because the whole point in this operation is that I get the most detail as possible onto the smallest amount of geometry so that the game runs very optimal. And I'll let you guys guess. So this is the left one or the right one? Which one's the I'm kind of cheating here because I'm just in a side view, and in a side view it's very hard to tell which ones. Some of you guys may have kind of already guessed, but it's hard to tell when you're looking at that kind of flat view because you're technically just looking at a flat image. So what I'll do is I'll pan around, let you guys get a good look. But I think, you know, some of you guys may have sort of twigged which one's which, but I hope that you will at least acknowledge that even if there is a difference, it's not noticeable enough. So for example, one of these, just to put it in perspective, one of these boxes is, I think it's like 400,000 vertices, and the other one is about 2,000. I think I worked out that it's at least 10 times smaller file size wise, you know, so it's at least 10 times more optimized, which is a good thing. And okay, I guess I'll just reveal which is which. So the one on the left, if you said that this one was the high poly, you would be wrong. This one's actually the low poly one. So if let's say if I turn the texture off, you can see that the one on the right is actually the one that has the proper geometry, I guess. And this one's just more or less a box. I added some little details here, And to be honest, the majority of the geometry, if I spin around this, the majority of the geometry is actually just in these bars. There's only, I think, like 200 vertices in the box itself. All I did was extrude out these little top bits and the side bits just to give it a little bit more depth whenever it comes to these bars. But whenever you turn the texture back on, you know, you can see it looks pretty good, I think. I'm quite happy with the end result. There's some things I'd like to change about it. I'm going to add more details on the side. But yeah, I think it looks pretty decent. If I go into this one, you can see the geometry is just insane. Like, there's just far too much geometry in this one. Yeah, just lots and lots of vertices. I think, yeah, so actually, no, sorry, I think I was wrong. It's like 47,000 edges. And then, but that's just for the box. So also these ones here, I think there's like 23,000 edges in that one. And then again, there's going to be like 23 in the other one. Then there are bars. There's like, oh, these are the same bars actually. So there's 2,000 in it. So yeah, there's so much more geometry in that. And you may be wondering why I'm so concerned. And again, it's obviously for optimization. You want it to run as quickly as possible. There was a video released recently on the PlayStation about the PlayStation 5 and Unreal Engine, where it said that you could have millions and billions of vertices on screen at once, and it could, you know, go as far as the eye could see. And I mean, I just have to just call that video out. It's just so many reasons that video is wrong. And already their PlayStation have confirmed that you have to choose between graphical quality or frames per second. So you know, I just think it's really false what was said there. But apart from anything else, from a practical standpoint, what they were suggesting was that you could have like real life scans of sort of geometry and landscapes and things like that, and then bring those real life scans into your game, and at no cost. It was just like, oh, look how smooth it runs, and this wouldn't be a problem. And at the end of the trailer, the guy even walked out of a cave, and there was like a massive world of all like real scanned topology. But I know for a fact that just cannot be practically right, because to put like, because I work with some of these like scans in real life in my current job, and they're like gigabytes and gigabytes of data in one scan. And to suggest that an entire world could be built up with these scans and it be just no problem, to like, I know now downloading games is insane. It takes like so long. There's games that are like 100 gigabytes, and you know, to practically just have an open world where you have like this just insane amount of vertices, I just don't think it's practical. Because imagine like even getting game updates and stuff like that, if like everything had to be updated or whatever, or like you just couldn't put something like that on a disc, for example. Like, I don't know, maybe you could stream it, but like, I don't know, like I can't imagine. So another reason like I'm trying to go really low poly is like, this game's eventually going to be put online, and the less the game has to kind of read, I think the better, and like the less lag there's going to be as well. So you know, I can see a world where we can have these like hyper scans and stuff like that, maybe as an offline game, and maybe it'll, I don't know, take a while to load. I'm not quite sure how that would work, but you could play it offline. I can imagine that single player, but to try and bring something like that online, I just don't think it's practical. I think the video they made was really misleading, especially considering Sony months later come back to say like, yo, no, you're gonna have to choose between whether you want graphics to be good or frames per second. Well, that's not, like, they were more or less saying in the video this will be at no cost. Like, your original artwork can be put in there at no cost. And I can see this workflow of high poly going down to low poly being a thing in gaming for quite a while, especially for things like mobile games and stuff. Like, you're not going to want to download a 10-20 gigabyte game onto your phone. So yeah, I know that's a little thing I think I just wanted to mention. So that's the thinking behind what I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to get this as optimized as possible. So, and yeah, I'm really happy with the results. So now I'm going to spend a bit of time just showing you guys how I got here, really. So, and it's not going to be a super detailed. I'm not going to go into every single step. It's just going to be a high level overview of what I've done, really, to give you guys an idea of what works going into this. So let's open up my, this is what my camera setup was like whenever I was actually taking the renders. So I didn't actually use any geometry. So this was the original box I took, and then I have my 4 cameras. I've got my sort of front view, and then I've got 2 side views, and then I just take a top view. That top view is really just looking at just kind of this broad texture, and I just kind of use that in parts that I kind of cheat with that a little bit and just use it in places that I just need to fill in, really, just like a nice area of texture to work with. So really all I did with this box was I first of all put it to the scale I needed it to, like kind of pushed and pulled it until I got it to the shape I want it, and then set up my cameras to take some renders. So like if I go into this view, it's just purely the side view, just rendered that. My theory was I'd render that out and then stick that image on the side of my box, my storage container. I did a few things. For example, I took away, so this I set up a couple, like I set up a side view and a front view, and the reason for that was that I didn't, whenever I was like push pulling this, my side view kind of got warped and the circle was a little bit warped, so I created my own side view one just so I could have this little circle, and I just drew my own circle, and you can see that even whenever I did this, it's really low poly in comparison to what the original storage container I had was. I think the person that was doing this just had no regard for vertice count. They just probably didn't care about having it low poly. So there's just far too many there to create a circle. You just don't need that much geometry. And I know some people's workflow would be like you could go into this now and like some sort of dissolve some of these vertices out, but that was just too slow for me. So yeah, that's the general idea. You set up your thing, get it to where you want, take some renders, and then I bring these renders into Photoshop. So in Photoshop, what I wanted first of all was this text. I wanted to get rid of all this text because you have things like shipping on the side of it. You have this little like note here that I just didn't want, and then I wanted to have like a blank canvas to work from, and so I did that in Photoshop once I had my I brung these textures into Photoshop and then mapped them onto my high poly object. So then I took a render of a blank high poly. So, and the way to do this, in case you're curious, there's the blank one here. So magically disappear, just these layers. But I kept this layer as the original. And the best way to do this, like I remember whenever I started out using Photoshop, I thought you could just like pick a color. So like use where's the little eyedropper? Yeah, there's the eyedropper. So I just I'll pick this red, and sorry, I'm on the wrong layer. I pick this red and then just like, I'll just use the paint tool and then just like color this in. So where is the brush tool? So I'll just like paint this in, and that doesn't look too bad actually, but it's really quite noticeable. There's just a big stain there. And so the way you want to do this is actually use the clone, clone stamp, and you just clone a section and then just like paint around it. And if you go too far, you'll paint into where the original text was. So just like, paint, and then maybe grab another section and paint. And what it's doing is it's like taking lots of different textures or like lots of different little colors instead of one. It's like taking all these pixels and then just putting them down there, and the eye kind of, if you make a mistake, so this doesn't look quite right, you can actually just go in here and spot heal that. So just like, heal that up and then just let go. Keep doing it until you're happy with how that looks. If you have like some lines, it can be a little obvious. So for example, if I like clone stamp this part and then just started painting over here, you'll get these very strong lines down it. So what you want to do is stamp it and then try and line that line up, if you know what I mean, and just do this. So that's what I did. Like just went around and then cleaned up a bit until I was left with this. And then I re-imported these blank ones into my high poly model, and then rendered that to get a nice blank template. But then I also decided just to use this to color my model as well, because if I open up this image, Battlefield had like a couple of different versions of colors in their storage containers. There was a green, a red, and like a silvery white, or maybe like a probably just like a steel finish, I guess. But it's, I guess, yeah, silver, I guess you could call it, or metal, just gunmetal, I don't know. So I went with let's see if I turn these off. To do that, I just added like a, what do you call this thing, an adjustment layer, a hue saturation layer. So yeah, I'll turn it so my red's like a little bit browner. If you look at this, it's like kind of a browny red. So I just played around with the settings a little bit. Let's see, let me show the green again, like just so if I open up this, so you can literally just slide this to wherever you want. You can have like a nice light blue one if you want it. I thought it looked pretty cool, but I actually, looking through footage, I think there may even be a blue one, so I may have to just double check. But yeah, you just play around with the settings and it just gives you whatever color you want. And then there's the grey one, which is just pretty much devoid of color. I just pretty much took the saturation right the way down. It's just white pretty much. So I took these. Once I was happy with how these are lining up, you know, these are all the unwraps. These are the texture maps for the high poly one. Then I actually I put some graphics over the top of this. So for example, there's the Chinese lettering, which took me a while to work out what those letters were, but someone on Twitter helped me to get them. And then like it's got this little Chinese dragon little thing, and just kind of like transformed that until I was happy with where that was sitting. I just got like a graphic. I just kind of downloaded that off the internet, but it looked pretty close to this little Chinese dragon here. It's not really, you can't really see it very clearly there. And you may be wondering why I chose the original as opposed to the 360 texture, and I like the colors in the original Battlefield a lot more. I thought it was a little bit more colorful. The 360 version, although it was more detailed, everything looked like kind of like a really greenish tinge, almost like the Mirix or something. And I just never really liked how those storage containers looked. So I'm trying to actually get the detail of the 360 ones, but with the colors and style, I guess, of the original game, like PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, because I just really liked how they looked. So yeah, that's so that was then retextured. So I would basically at this point just save this, and go down like all of them, save like, well, actually turn the graphics off, but go down all of them and save a you know, a version of all of these, and then like rewrap the high poly one. I don't know if I have a file that shows that, but I rewrap it and then render those. And let me see, I could actually probably see if I can find some. Yeah, I should probably open this up. Let's see, Remake. Yep, and then textures. So these are the original textures from the original map. Then these are the Battlefield colors. So I saved these all, and then just like re-import them into Blender. They're really they're really like insanely high detailed as well. Like some of these textures, one of like, they're all usually like 2 meg, but one of them for one of the color maps was like 42 meg or something crazy for this one here, and it kind of just gave it a bit more depth and stuff. But it was just like, my textures end up being like, I think well, I'll show you my final textures. These are the renders, which end up being the final textures used. So you've got the, you know, the green one, all different sides, and then the front, the whitish grey one, and then the red one. But these end up being like, so if I take all 4 of these, they're 2 meg just for all of those. But I think my texture files for this like really high poly one were up like nearly 50 meg or something. So again, even the textures are pretty low poly too. So yeah, that's my final ones. And yeah, so that once I had my textures, all that was left to do was then map those new renders onto some geometry, and this is the final geometry here. Let's see if I can tab into this. It's actually mirrored, so if I turn this modifier off, I've got a mirror modifier on there, so I actually only modeled half of my storage container. And this is a technique I've never actually done before. I know it's commonly used, but what I kind of came across this by accident really. What I did was I first of all modeled one side. I had it all flat, and then I realized that this bit here kind of needs to be sticking up. This isn't the final version, by the way, in case you're wondering why that's black down there. Let me just show you my final version. Might be better. But yeah, so what I did was I modeled it just as a box. I know I said in my last video I was just going to go for a box, but yeah, this is the final version here. So once I mapped this little like circular bit on, because in the original file it's kind of, or in the original like high poly one, it's slightly sticking up. It just looked better for that to be like that, so I kind of did that in this one. Also, these bars didn't look right, just stuck to the side of like a flat plane, so it made sense to actually pull these side parts out a little bit and then just kind of match this in, so it looked like the hinge was actually part of this side part here. Yeah, I think this looked much better. So but what I did was I started to model this half of the box, and then on the other side I kind of tried to replicate what I did first time round, and I just sort of forgot. I was like looking at this complex geometry, like where I don't even remember how this ended up happening, where I pushed this over, and I was trying to replicate that, and I was like, you know what, why am I replicating this? I could just use the mirror modifier. And so what I did was I just cut my box exactly in half and then applied this mirror to it, and that's why you can see like this the texture is actually mirrored, but I deleted that texture anyway and just put on one of these ones here. And so for my final box I did actually apply that modifier, and just that's it applied, and I've got the exact same geometry on both sides. And then I could just delete this or dissolve this like center part, because it kind of annoyed me, just in case there was something it did something funny. So I just like dissolved. Oh, that didn't work. I wonder, can you just delete them? No, I can't remember how I actually got rid of these. Oh, maybe it was like, okay, only faces. No. Face, no. Edges, no. Maybe it's because I'm in vertice mode. Let's see. So if I grab an edge and then dissolve, delete, dissolve edges. Yeah, there we are. So that's it. And that's completely warped my texture, but remember I didn't use that texture now, I retextured it. So but that's my box. I actually went round through and cleaned up a lot more of these other lines. As you can see, like there's more or less no lines there that aren't completely necessary. They aren't like structural lines. So yeah, I went around and tidied that up after I'd applied that. And then once, see, you should never apply a texture to geometry until you're like 100% certain you're not going to change that geometry. Because for example, if I well, I mean, this might take a wee second. Yeah, so if I for some reason wanted to, can I lip cut this? No. If I want it to, damn it. If I want it to grab like this vertice and for some reason move it, see the way it's warping that texture? Because like, you know, this texture map is like specific to this shape, so I would have to like move that, and then like, I don't know, for whatever reason I need to add more geometry there. Like maybe I had to like draw a little something here, like I had to add some geometry to this here to get that hole in. But like, let's say if I yeah, well, you get the point. So it's all warped. So what I'd have to do now is like now go back into it and then re-unwrap this. So yeah, it's like you're doubling your work pretty much. So I'd have to like, so I click on this face, then go like smart UV unwrap it again, then like go into the UV editor and like you know, move this, so like I'd have to rotate this and then make sure it's like the right size, and you know, you get the point. I'd have to like grab this and then move it about. It's kind of a complicated enough thing. You don't want to have to do it more than once basically, so you'd have to like line this up to like get it perfect. But yeah, you get the point. I'm not going to retexture this, but so that's, I mean, an overview. I know I didn't go into detail on the exact buttons to push, for example, but I think this video would just had to have been so much longer than what it was. But now what I'm trying to do is just like go through old footage and line up these storage containers as to where they would have originally sat, and you know, as to the right colors and stuff as well. Like make sure, you know, if there's a green storage container here, then I put a green storage container back there. And I'm not entirely finished. Like there's some, I still haven't textured up the open containers, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue. There are also some ones that are just like kind of sitting around the map. But this one here is actually, I was looking through the footage and it's partly destroyed. So like that's one, for example, I'll have to like put a dent in the side of it and stuff if I want to like make it as accurate to the original as I can. And I'm only about halfway down the key here. Like I've only got to about just the cranes. And I'm just like looking through old footage trying to line up like roughly where these things sit, and it's actually a lot harder to get these to be in the right place, so that getting them all lined up to the right scale. And well, they're not, the containers themselves I think are to scale, but like making sure that, you know, like the space between here and here is exactly the way it was in the old one, and then the space between this box and that box, you know, you can just you can spend like a long time just trying to get this all lined up, you know, making sure the space in between the crane and the box is right. And I think I'm, you know, 90% there with all of these ones, but I just have to work out the rest, the other half of this terminal. And then there's all these other like crates that'll just be scattered the whole way throughout the map, but I kind of only really need to worry about the ones in here just for now, because we're not like going full conquest or anything yet. And yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at now. So I thought I'd just share where I was, because I said I would do it, and I thought I'd go into a little bit more detail on how I got. And I could have just bought, like, because I know I bought some of these assets, like I bought the sandbags, I bought this little train, I bought the train tracks. But I mean, I eventually have to start modeling this stuff myself to get it, especially the containers, because, you know, I wanted to make sure I had complete control over the graphics. There's some more stuff I'd like to add to that and little changes, but I'm happy for where we are now for the next build. And yeah, you have to kind of pick and choose. Like I can't just buy everything. Although I was talking, I would like to maybe buy some weapons and stuff just to get us a head start on that, because I don't know, it'll take me too long to model weapons and things like that. But anyway, that was just a quick overview. Thanks guys for watching, and be sure to check out the Discord if you haven't already. Hopefully I can get these storage containers all lined up for the next build. I also want to do some more texturing and finish off some of the other surrounding buildings. So I'm not sure when the next build will be, but the best place to find out and ask questions about it is in the Discord group, which I'll leave a link to in the description. So thanks for watching this video, and hopefully I'll have some more updates for you very soon.